Saturday Social, brought to you by EA Sports FC with PlayStation 5.
Oh, yes, huge news. I don't know about you, but I did not see that coming at all. So let's go straight to Loz, big Liverpool fan. Your thoughts when you first heard the news?
In terms of football, it's a historic moment, I think, for Liverpool. It's the end of an era. It's the end of us having our confidence reinstilled in the whole club and essentially being reminded of what we thought Liverpool were. He actually made us what we wanted to be. That, I think, it's genuinely one of the biggest things that ever happened in like in the Premier League in general. But to us specifically, it's world-shattering. And,
of course, you've met him and worked with him. We were just chatting off camera, actually. You were saying one of your favourite ever shoots with Klopp.
Definitely,
One of my favourite ever shoots with Klopp. We've also done one together, which was... He's always gold dust whenever we're with him. You've obviously worked with him as well. Tell us about your experience with him.
His presence is the thing that strikes you first, right? There's like an aura that comes into the room with him, and it's not just a thing that he's Liverpool manager or whatever. If he was whatever team's manager, he would bring that same aura, that same presence and the same energy. And that was the main crux of the interview, right? The energy that Jurgen Klopp brings. And that's where I guess I understand it. I understand everything he says in the interview. Maybe as a Liverpool fan, I'm kind of primed to want to understand it. But himself, he commands the whole room. Yeah. And it's hard to think of another manager right now that we could replace him with that would have that same impact.
What are your thoughts on the timing of it? Because maybe just as a Man United fan, I was a bit surprised. It felt very out of the blue. There was no chat mid-season.
Yeah, right.
You're right in the mix for a Premier League title and all the other trophies. What do you think about the timing?
Well, timing-wise, it is kind of a couple of different gates for that, right? So November was the first time when he went and told the owners, probably giving them some time to work out what their next steps were. At the same time, he says in the summer he started to feel that way when they were going through transfers. And he got that thing in his head where he said, I might not be here after that. And then I think, obviously as football fans, we're incredibly entitled to be like, oh, well, it's the timing of it and all this sort of thing. If he says it's the right thing to do, every Liverpool fan just goes, well, if Jurgen Klopp says it, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that, actually.
What do you think, Flex?
I agree. Of course, I think we have to take our Man United hats off for a little bit, just as a neutral.
You're smiling.
Fan,
Why are you smiling?
No, because, look, from a Manchester United fan perspective, of course, them losing one of their greatest ever managers in the modern, well, their greatest manager of the modern era, in this era, of course that's going to be music to Manchester United fans' ears and everybody else who's been trying to keep up with Liverpool in the 8.5 years that Klopp's been there. He's been absolutely brilliant. So from that perspective, absolutely, we're rejoicing. But actually, when I look at it in terms of what he is to this league, the league's missing a massive character. And I like the old school Premier League when you talk about the feuds between the managers and people with personalities. We need these people in our game. And I'm not saying he's never going to be in the game again, but the fact that he's saying I'm never going to imagine another team in England.
Yeah, strong quotes, weren't they?
They're really, really strong. And I actually looked at it first and I went to the video to go and watch it so I can laugh and be happy that he's gone. And then I was listening to his voice and I was like, this is a bit off, actually. I hope he's all right. I hope he's... And then he confirmed that I'm not ill or anything like that. But actually, I agree with what you said. When he says it's the time for him to go, and especially the management style that he has, he gives his all. He's inspiring. He's off the pitch. He's brilliant. On the pitch, he's giving it all as well. Or on a touchline, he's giving it all. So for him to keep that up, that's a tough ask. And I actually respect the line where he says, it's better that it's too early than too late. And he's left them in the best possible position that they could be in.
Should we talk about where he ranks then in terms of greatest ever Premier League managers? Where would you put him?
Be sensible.
Joe, look me in the eye.
Be sensible about this.
Joe. I think he's on the Mount Rushmore, so it puts him in the conversation. He's not above Sir Alex, obviously. No. Sir Alex is the greatest Premier League manager of all time, and I think he always will be. It's hard to see anyone dethroning him or coming up anywhere near him. There's conversations where Klopp's mixing it with Wenger. I think he's mixing it with Mourinho. And I think most people want to talk about trophies, and maybe he doesn't compare favourably there, although maybe in the future he will if, rulings go the right way. But the main crux of it is, people talk about Pep's passing and what he brought to the league. We don't really mention enough how much gegenpressing and then pressing was brought to the league by Klopp. If you look back at the time, people are explaining pressing to the audience as Klopp's coming into the Premier League. And that was an English thing from the 80s that he even references as like a thing that he was really inspired by. So I think he's had a bigger influence than just winning trophies or, being Liverpool manager. He's kind of ushered in this pressing idea into the Premier League. It's not that other managers didn't do it, but he was one of the main proponents of it. And that shaped modern football in terms of what we now know as our game.
It's powerful looking back at his first press conference when he said, don't judge someone when they come in, judge them when they leave. And it's like, wow, never a true percent. I mean, the 10th when they took over and he's won 6 major trophies, every single major trophy he could have won as well. So it's fascinating to see. It did get us thinking. Huge shoes to fill. The thing you said as well, what I will like to make a point is a lot of Man United fans I saw buzzing, and I saw one say on social media, I'm absolutely buzzing Klopp's leaving, but that's the biggest compliment I can pay to Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
Because it shows how good a manager he was. But it did get everyone thinking who is going to replace him, because it is massive shoes to fill. We've got a Liverpool fan, we've got the Saturday Social Whiteboard, Joe, so do you want to explain the rules to this one?
I think this is basically the impossible job, isn't it? But, Loz, we've asked you to pick your top 5 candidates to replace Jurgen Klopp as Liverpool manager. I didn't think I'd be saying that this weekend. We're going in reverse order, so we'll start at 5 and we'll work our way up to your number 1 candidate, because I think the top 2 or 3 maybe a bit more standout than...
Well, I mean, that's up to you.
Let's have a look at your 5.
That's up to the audience.
I didn't want to say it, but I've had a glimpse of your number 5.
You're not happy with 5, are you?
I'm not.
I think
terrible.
Let's reveal to the camera who you've gone with for number 5 then, Loz.
OK, can I just explain my ruling around
Of course you can. It's your pick, man.
No, absolutely. This man, Jose Mourinho. Now, you guys came to me and went top 5. I thought, really, there's like a top 3 or 4 and then some fun slots. Fun slot.
That's not going to be fun.
This is going to be a lot of fun. Jose Mourinho, years ago...
Be fun for us.
OK, all right, already it started sniping at our next manager. Can't help themselves, these United fans. No, but seriously, Jose Mourinho was at one point destined to manage Liverpool. There are quotes back in the day of him saying, I was meant to be doing it, and then something happened behind the scenes. Now, it was destiny that Klopp was to be Liverpool manager. But maybe this man's destiny is to lead us back.
You do not believe
Flex
that.
really wants to come in here. Go on,
honestly, I have my manual, my post-Jose, trauma manual. If you get him, I'll give it to you. You can have a read of it. He would ruin every single foundation that Klopp has put in to that Liverpool side.
It'd be fun, wouldn't it?
For us, yes. To watch it just capitulate. He just is not the right man in terms of the modern game now. And I actually got a lot of respect for Jose. Like, what he's done at Roma, I was happy to see.
Talking about Mount Rushmore's Premier League managers, he would be on there.
100%. And I'm not
you guys would be thrilled to have this guy right now. 2 6th-place finishes in Serie A back-to-back.
And I tell you what, but that's what I'm saying. That's what you're going to become if you bring him in. Front foot attacking football, exciting. Jose Mourinho at Liverpool, please. I want that to be number 1.
Well, stick it on it. It is your pick.
Can I put it up there?
Yeah. Stick it. As I say, it's your pick, and Flex will be critiquing them. So you're not having number 5. Should we move on?
Will you have number 4?
Number 4.
I think this is someone that Joe and I probably agree on.
I really like Julian Nagelsmann. Maybe it's just...
Instant
it
shout.
feels like that opinion, though, has waned a little bit after his sacking at Bayern Munich and kind of joining the German national team. I feel like the reputation of Nagelsmann has actually taken a bit of a hit there.
Pre-Bayern Munich, though, his reputation, he was one of the most touted managers
He's only 36.
in the world. He's only 36 now. Obviously, he's the German national team manager. But interestingly, contract only until after the Euros. So what would you make of that, Flex?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. It wouldn't be... I don't even like saying this. It wouldn't be my first pick.
Sure. Well, that's my 4th pick, mate, so we agree on that.
I hope... No, I'm saying me as a United fan saying it wouldn't be my first pick. Like, I don't really care. I hope they get the appointment wrong. But I think he can do well. I like him. The fact that, like you said, he's a young up-and-coming manager. He's not exactly... In terms of personality, obviously, there's nobody who can replicate what Jurgen Klopp gives. But I think he's done well, and he is tainted with that time at Bayern, where it's almost like it was a shiny new toy. Everyone praising him. He's had a bit of a difficult time at Bayern, and now all of a sudden he's a poor manager. I don't believe that. So I think there's some good bits about him. Yeah, I can see why you got him on your list.
Football's all about consciousness for me, and if you're out of the consciousness, then people tend to forget what is good about you and what was maybe negative about you. I think there's a lot of good around him, and some institutions in Europe have got a tendency to not allow you to be yourself. Bayern Munich, brilliant club, but you have to be the Bayern way. What Liverpool have sort of done under Klopp is become a bit more malleable. There is an openness now to, well, who can you be? Who could you make us into? Who can you revive from a past manager? I think he's young, he's audacious, he plays the kind of football that we want to play, and there's a consistency to like that idea of manager. So I don't mind that. And I think also we'll get him fairly cheap because, be there. And also, who goes the other way? We'll trade you. Klopp for this guy. You can have Klopp, and we'll take this.
Klopp to the German national team. Yeah.
I don't think that's a dreadful shout, actually. I don't think he
But he
will
said
be
he's
the
not managing
person that
for a year, though,
replaces
didn't he?
Klopp.
Yeah,
but stick him on.
I do think, like, as well, the Nagelsmann stuff at Bayern is, you know, maybe a little bit overplayed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, it's really hard to succeed at Bayern. You have to be almost perfect, and it's not as if Thomas Tuchel's come in and just blown what Nagelsmann was doing out of the water either. So I don't.
Wasn't that long either as well? I know what you mean about the narrative there. Now we get into the interesting part, the top three.
Well, no, this was still interesting.
This
was fascinating chat.
It was
Yeah.
very
Nagelsmann and Jose,
interesting.
nobody
I'll be
believes
watching
that.
it back later many times on all the platforms you can catch us on. But who's your number 3, mate?
Yeah, there he is, Thomas Frank.
Thomas Frank, OK.
Yeah. It's the innovative nature of Brentford. It's what he's done in the Premier League on a relatively low budget.
Amazing job at Brentford.
But, I mean, you know, in terms of manager of the season, I think he's always in that kind of conversation. I know it's difficult to maintain momentum at a club where, you know, maybe their budgets aren't as generous as it would be at the top of the league, and that's understandable. But the football that he plays, the way that he matches up with some of the other managers, and the way that the players love him, he ticks all those boxes. And if you give him the war chest or whatever you want to call it, you just wonder what could he be? And he has that charisma and personality, again, that, I don't know, we might
You see similar personality traits with Klopp and Thomas Frank?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Klopp is everything's turned up to 100, so, you know, it's hard to compare.
Yeah.
But this man, I think, has been so consistent in the league. There's an argument, there's almost a Brendan Rodgers-y type vibe where he's on ascending.
Yeah.
And Liverpool could pick him up at a similar time that we did with Rodgers. We had a pretty good run with Rodgers. I think a lot of people forget the run we had with him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that.
Flex, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, actually. I think because he has a lot of characteristics on an interpersonal level, like the way he would be able to interact with the players, the relationship he could strike up with the fans, because he's quite a warm person.
He's a very
Thomas
liked
Frank.
and respected manager, I feel, from not just the internal fan base, but actually from other fan bases.
Everybody
as well.
likes him, which is weird, because as soon as he goes to Liverpool, that won't be the case. But as soon as anyone goes to Liverpool, it won't be the case. But giving him the different tools, different resources, I feel like it'll be a bit too big for him, though.
Cognitive dissonance.
I do.
He doesn't like it, and so he can't evaluate it in a fair way.
No, I feel like that's too much of a step up.
What I think we should do, Joe, is because Flex is critiquing, when we get to the nitty-gritty now, we should get his thoughts as well as to who he'd have.
I'd like...
United?
No,
in your top 3.
Oh, right.
Top 3, so get thinking...
I would have swapped those two.
Would you?
Really?
Yeah, I would have had Nagelsmann above Thomas Frank.
It's hard when you've not proven yourself in the Premier League and then someone else has. That's the only reason I put Frank up there, I guess. Because, you know, a lot of people say when you take a transfer from Bundesliga or the Championship, the equivalency between the two, very similar. Championship players coming to the Premier League do pretty well in the same way as Bundesliga players. Same logic with the managers.
OK.
OK, let's have a look.
This one...
At your number 2.
I've got some good friends at this club, and so I wouldn't want to upset them, but that guy.
Yes. Yeah.
He's on the way up. Not sure about the way he dresses, but... You know,
Is that an important factor for you?
Very.
He's got the tracksuit on, hasn't he?
He's got a bit... Sometimes he
he's
mixes
club
it
shop.
up in the wrong way. You need to look good on the touchline, and I feel like Klopp's always nailed that. The wardrobe's always been on point.
Yeah.
But he's club shop as well, Klopp, isn't it? He's just got the Liverpool hat.
Do you remember the first press conference, though? Very sharp suit.
Yeah.
Very sharp.
What about his football, though? What about his football?
Let's get back to the football. What's a
It's
coach?
slightly social, mate. I'll
The
say
way
what I want.
that Brighton played.
The way that Brighton play,
What a coach.
I think also just the fact that he was taken in at Brighton, the fact that really he's taken on a lot of the top managers and shown he's got the chops for it. That's important. And I kind of want to get in there before City do.
I was about to say that. There's a lot of reports, isn't there, that City kind of view Roberto De Zerbi as a potential successor to Pep Guardiola. If both of those clubs are on the table and Roberto has the option to join City or Liverpool, who would you join?
Oh, that's difficult. Probably City, because they're polished, they have everything, they've dominated. You're walking into, you know, that level of consistency at the top level of winning the top trophies. But if he that's where it depends on the individual, because the individual could look at, I want to gate crash that. I want to be the person at Liverpool to infiltrate that dominance by City, and that's where it becomes about the individual's decision. But yeah, on paper you probably say Manchester City, but De Zerbi could prefer Liverpool.
All these guys, project managers, apart from Jose. Even Jose makes a little project of it, but it's like he just burns it at the end.
It is going to be a project, right? Like Klopp has said numerous times, this is already Liverpool 2.0. He's signed a lot of young players. You know, I think at the weekend there was 3 20-year-olds starting, wasn't there? So,
which is interesting shout for De Zerbi actually, because he actually gave 24 debuts to players aged 23 or under when he was managing the Serie A. And a big part of what he does is give young players. And you've seen that at Brighton now, the amount of young players.
Put anyone in.
He's giving a debut to, but also improving the way they play. So I think De Zerbi is definitely going to be in the mix. So we'll stick him up.
Matching football as well, by the way. So kind of we've got a squad that fits that. He can come in and play it straight away.
Before we get Loz's, I just want to, before you know who Loz has got, who would be your pick out of interest, neutral, bias aside? Who do you think is the perfect person to replace Klopp?
I think Xabi Alonso has pretty much all of the boxes ticked, apart from just experience.
OK, and who have you gone with? In total agreement, wow.
Yeah, for once.
Yeah. Go on, why Xabi Alonso to replace Jurgen Klopp for you?
Well, with Alisson, he's one of the most beautiful men in football. He's obviously played for the club. There is that secret release clause that means that we could take him back if we wanted. He's playing great football in the Bundesliga. It feels like he would fit us. And you know, I know there's a lot of talk in the Sir Alex Ferguson era of who would take over from him, who would be the prolific manager. He's a bit of a change from Klopp in terms of demeanour, and I feel like he seems like he'd be able to handle it in a respectful, level-headed, almost transition away from that rock and roll football that Klopp's got and bring it into this. It's something else that we need, that shift. Whereas a couple of other managers on here, I'm not sure whether we'd know what the identity was or what we were going for. This just says we know what we can get invested in. We know Alonso's one of our men. And let's just face it, look at him.
Stick him up then.
Well,
there we go. Yeah. And total agreement. Xabi Alonso, only team in Europe undefeated all season, by the way, by Leverkusen, doing very well. But that is confirmation of the top 5. So Loz and Flex agree that Xabi Alonso is the perfect man to replace Jurgen Klopp. Zidane didn't get mentioned. There's a few names that we did. There's a lot of...
Steven Gerrard didn't get mentioned.
Yeah,
he's very busy. He's very busy.
Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of that top 5, if you agree or if you disagree.